Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us in celebrating Going Wild and Other Stories. I'm Helen Moffett, and I had the lucky and the happy job of compiling these stories, of selecting the material and commissioning some of our best and brightest writers to produce good quality content and stories for the learners in your classrooms and your homes. We really hope you like the result. I was a bit surprised when the publishers approached me because most of my classroom experience has been at universities and colleges. I don't have much experience of teaching, certainly not this age group. But I do have a little bit of experience working for the non-profit organization Book Dash, which creates free books for South African children, and in fact children all over the world, and also in teaching as a volunteer at a school for children with disabilities on the Cape Flats many moons ago. And those experiences have taught me how incredibly important it is that South African learners get stories in which they can see themselves in the best possible way, in which they can see their family situations and their realities. And some of those realities are harsh, but they can see those realities reflected. So I believe that children need to be able to see themselves in stories. I'll just say that line again. I believe that South African children need to be able to see themselves in stories. And at the same time, I believe that all fiction, all writing in some ways, should act as a magic carpet, especially for younger readers. It should give them an escape. It should teach them to expand their worlds. It should teach them how to travel, even when they're stuck at home. And this is especially true of pandemic conditions. And also children from less privileged backgrounds for whom jetting all over the world just is not an option. And yet we can pick up the pages of a book and we can escape. We can escape into different worlds, into different galaxies, into different countries, into different families, different environments. And so we wanted a book that reflected that first and foremost. And then we wanted an environmental theme, but not in a preachy or scary way. We wanted children to understand that an environment is something we all live in. It surrounds us, it embraces us, in fact. Um, Air, water, soil, food, that all this is around us all the time, and that we have the power to act, to protect it, and to save it, and to nurture it, and to hand it on to future generations. So it was very exciting choosing that topic and then commissioning the stories. And then I was incredibly lucky that my job means that I work with some of the most interesting and gifted writers in the country and in fact around the world. So I basically emailed all of my mates and several other people that I admired greatly. And I said, come on, I believe in good content, in quality content for South African readers and learners. And I don't see why. I hate this attitude of palming children off with second best anything. I think that the standards of literature for learners need to be stratospherically high, that we need to give them the best, the brightest, the most interesting, the most engaging material possible. So that's why I asked some of the best writers I know to come up with stories. And boy, did they deliver. I know that this presentation will give you a chance to hear about the individual stories, so I won't say anything about those. I'll let them speak for themselves. But I think you're going to be as pleased and excited as I was when these stories started rolling in. And then I wrote a story myself, a story that's actually autobiographical in some ways. It's not about me, but it's about my family. And it's called Lulu the Terrible. And it's the story of a little girl who is not mean, she is not wicked, she has no malice, but she is chronically and incurably naughty. And I thought that that was always something that interests learners. We always want to hear about the rebels and the naughty kids. the rule breakers, all the characters who are always getting into trouble. So I wrote a story called Lulu the Terrible, in which I explore exactly that. And I hope you enjoy it, and I hope that your learners enjoy it and identify with it as well. So please let us have your feedback when you read the book. Please let us know how it works in your classrooms. And if you like it, you don't know. If you like it, please let us know. And we wish you well in reading it.
Hello from chilly London. I was really excited to get to work on Going Wild, and of course, I had to tell a story with my own spin to it. I loved the idea of creating a world where it was nature meets magic, as it so often does in African mythology. I love that I got to put in another one of my favorite things to write about, which is girls kicking butt and taking their future, their lives into their own hands. And I love being able to also show off some of our South African mythology in it. This time, the story centers on Gritslang and a girl's quest to find the diamonds that Gritslang's been hoarding away. It's really exciting for me to have had the opportunity to work on Going Wild with so many incredible writers, mostly because it's really fun to imagine creating an anthology that is just about having fun, that is about entertaining stories, but quality stories, stories that have a richness of perspective, take you somewhere completely different, celebrate all sorts of different ways of seeing our country and our children seeing themselves. So I couldn't be happier about having had the opportunity to contribute to it and also to get to explore some of those themes that I really enjoy. As much as it is a fantasy story and it's about magic and it's about mythology, there's also something really real in it about the relationship between a mother, her daughter, and her stepfather, right? And a lot of the things that he does in that story were really resonating a lot with me, thinking about gender-based violence, thinking about the ways that relationships and difficult domestic relationships impact kids. And so there are some serious themes underneath the fun and the magic, but that's always the way it is with my stories because kids always know more than you think they know. You don't have to talk about these things explicitly, but it is great to show a character not only standing up to a magical bully, but also standing up to a real life bully. And that's why I'm super excited for everyone to read Diamonds Aren't Forever.
Hi, my name is Sally Partridge. I am the author of Paradise. My story is set in Rondebosch East in Cape Town during the water shortage. Young Delaney Apple is devastated by the death of her garden, and I wanted to write a story about how a child can teach us the things that we should know, like compassion and ingenuity and innovation. So Delaney uses grey water from her baths and doing the dishes to bring the garden back to life. And she creates the paradise that she knew existed in her imagination. And I just want the story to inspire joy and just a love of nature to young children, and also a sense of responsibility to take care of what we have while we still do.
Okay, hi, I'm Qarnita Loxton, and my story is called She is Wild. And it's about a young girl called Karima who is getting dressed for Civies Day. And she's unfortunately dressed herself in a leopard print, or well, unfortunately, according to her mother, in a leopard print skirt that she's rolled up a bit too short. And so she's sitting in her room listening as her mother and her grandmother are arguing about whether she should be allowed to go to school in this short skirt. And as she's sitting there stewing, she hears her mother talking about the boys across the road who stand on the corner while she waits for the bus. And her mother's concern is that these boys catcall her and make comments and all of that about what she's wearing. And the story goes about how Karima, her mother, and her grandmother resolve this situation in the morning to decide whether she can actually get on the bus and go to school. And it goes to a conclusion where her mother Amina and her grandmother share wisdoms with her that it's not actually her fault that these boys are reacting to her in the way that they are. It doesn't matter what she's wearing. It's not her responsibility the way that they are behaving, but that there's something wrong with the way that the boys are behaving. And so it resolves where Karima gets on the bus. She's got her grandmother standing next to her, but her mother is the one who goes and confronts these boys and essentially shames them into not heckling her daughter. And so it deals with the way that young girls show up in the world and the challenges that they face, but also the relationship between a young girl and her mother, and what she may not understand about her mother. In this instance, the relation to the theme was that Karima has a fascination with leopards, and that's partly where her skirt comes from. And then she also realizes that leopards are also well known for protecting their young and other young in the wild. And so when she looks at her mother through new eyes and sees her as a leopard, as not just a mother that's moaning at her, but a mother that is actually trying to protect her. And yeah, the inspiration for the story came from, I guess, Helen's suggestion that I think about doing a prequel to my novel being Carrie. And Carrie was short for Karima. And so the story was born in that way. I hope you enjoy it.
Good morning, everybody. Lungi and I have been enjoying ourselves reading Going Wild and Other Stories. I have his attention for about 2 minutes. He seems to like the cover, and I love it too. I'm so excited to be part of this production with all the exciting writers, and congratulations to Helen for putting this together. I love the way there's lesson plans within each story, and yeah, I'm so happy to be part of this production. This young man seems to be impressed too, and I think for all the young people, the teenagers or the tweens that will read this, I think it's a really great production. And I've been enjoying reading the stories. Right now I'm reading The Black Monzo by Mpho Phalwane. And well, as you see, this young man seems to be impressed for his own reasons, more for the quality of the paper. And I think that should be the end of our review. Congratulations to all the writers, to the publisher. Thanks to Thea and Charles, and everybody who helped put this together. Thanks a million. Bye.
Hi, my name is Mpho. I am one of the contributing authors of the book Going Wild and Other Stories. I am so thrilled that the book is finally out, and it is such a great book, and I know that the kids that we had in mind when we were writing this, the ones between the ages of 6 and 8, and I dare say even older, will enjoy the lineup of stories that is packed in the book. I have contributed to 3 stories in the book, and my inspiration was my own childhood, mostly growing up in rural Northwest, great time that I had, playing with my cousins, playing with my friends at school, and a time when I was just discovering and forging a path of who I was going to be, looking back at some of the things or, little challenges that I had about, the fear of being wrong, and just, wanting some of these stories to encourage our younger readers that it's okay to not have it figured out, it's okay to be wrong, it's okay to not have everything right, it's okay to get things wrong, it's okay to fail and try again, because there is no better time to fail like when you were a kid. And some of the themes as well being that, as we grow and we interact with each other, the decisions that, we tend to take, and, how they make you feel, do they make you feel good? Do they make you feel bad? And ultimately, which lessons, that your teachers, your parents were giving you, are you going, to implement or ignore? And every kid comes, faced with that decision to say, who will I be? What, makes me feel good and what doesn't? And I'm hoping, that it will just be that a realization as well, that you are not alone, that so many of us have went through that, and so many will continue to go through that. And even now, so many are with you, that your parents understand. They might seem a little distracted. They might seem to think that what you're going through sometimes is not important, but that is not true. It just takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of communication. And it's just also one of those themes that as you grow up, you realize how some of the things that you believe in, that you hold dear and that are important to you right now, were influenced by your parents, influenced by your community, influenced by even the country that you live in, to say, this is who I am, this is what I believe in, this is my heritage, this is my tradition. Especially in South Africa, even recognizing other people's beliefs as well, and also what makes us us as a nation. And it's an incredible group of stories, not just my own, and I know that anybody reading this is going to love it and enjoy it. And thank you so much in advance for your support. Hope you enjoy the book.
Hi, my name is Tanika Qarnita and I am the illustrator for Going Wild and Other Stories. When I was first approached to work on this book, I was super excited and happy because from an early age I always knew that I loved to tell stories through my illustrations. After discussing the look and the feel of the book, I started formulating ideas in my head already, and I knew that the style and the feel I wanted to go for was going to be very mystical and adventurous and playful. My experience working on Going Wild has been a good one, certainly, although it was, of course, a lot of hard work. For the cover, I scamped out a lot of different sketches and came up with two different ideas for the front cover. I knew that because the cover has to be really interesting and intriguing, as it's the first thing the reader sees, it needs to draw them in. It was vital for me to create a cover that was really outstanding, and the secret to that is all in the details, and I like to get really detailed in my illustrations. I paid close attention to the characters' expressions on their faces. I wanted them to look happy, excited. I took elements from inside the book and I added them to the cover as well. And I ended up going with a color palette that was really pretty and dreamy, and it really tied everything together and came out really beautiful. My favorite part about working on this book was definitely seeing everything come together in the end as a whole. From the front and back cover design to all of the inside illustrations. When I started the project, it was very daunting to see how many illustrations I had to do in a certain amount of time. But once I decided on a style, it just kind of flowed. And I'm just so grateful that I had the opportunity to work on this project and bring all of these very talented authors' stories to life.
I'm Diane Albach, and I wrote the educational content for Going Wild, this new collection of stories. I'm a big fan of short stories. They are my favorite things to read. They always have been. And especially during COVID, I feel like the short versions of other people's stories are really what we need to hear, because they remind us that we are not alone, and they give us insights into how other people deal with the lovely or the horrible, or the things that are frequently both lovely and horrible aspects of the times that we are living in. I really enjoyed working with the stories. I loved seeing how they changed, and I'm going to pick a favorite. I know that's not okay. But Bontle Senne's Grootslang story is my personal favorite. I just feel like it took this mythological idea, which has been around for a long time, and is also in Minecraft now, and twinned it with a very claustrophobic domestic situation that we've all had access to in some form or another. I felt like it was doing a beautiful thing, taking a terrible situation and turning it into poetry of a kind, which is what really good prose writing should sound like. I hope you enjoy reading these stories. I wrote the questions and the answers, but they're only a guide. Thank you.